We got a top 20 matchup in the SEC on Saturday. Number 20 Texas looking for their fourth straight win against number 9 Vanderbilt, heading to Austin, Texas on Saturday. The Longhorns are trying to secure their second top 10 of the season. It'll be a tough one given what we've seen from Vanderbilt so far this season, plus the health of their quarterback and Arch Manning still up in the air, given QB1 is currently in concussion protocol. Taking a look at some of the tail of the tape for both of these sides here. When it comes to Vandy, 7-1. Best start in terms of 8 games since 1941, their highest AP ranking since they were number 7 in 1937. On the flip side, Texas, of course, I mentioned number 20 in the land, is seeking their first home win against an AP top 10 since 2016. On the flip side, they have lost 5 straight of those, 0-3 as well under Sarkisian in such games. So we'll see what happens on noon Eastern in Austin, Texas. For more on that, my guy Chip Brown tapping in with us from 24/7 Sports. And Chip, of course, a lot of people are wondering what's going to happen with Arch and protocol. We have to wait and see. But what have you heard around the program and seen from the backup there in Matthew Caldwell?
Yeah, Arch Manning took a hit to the back of the head, back of the helmet on the first play of overtime against Mississippi State. Texas sent that play in to be reviewed by the SEC to see if indeed there was a targeting call that was missed. But right now, Arch Manning is in the process of, showing that he can come out of the concussion in such a way that he might be able to play this week. We won't know that until later in the week. As of right now, it's Matthew Caldwell getting the first team reps with the offense. And Matthew Caldwell was a late addition in the transfer portal, who started his college career at Gardner-Webb. He, started 6 games last year at Troy. He started a game at Iowa, so he's been in some big time situations. And look, the 2 times he's come in against Power 4 competition in SEC play, he's made plays. Against Florida, Arch Manning was sacked, had his helmet come off, and Matthew Caldwell came in. It was 2nd and 22. It was the final minutes of the game, and he throws a 26-yard strike to Ryan Wingo on an in-breaking route, and then left the game. And then, of course, against Mississippi State, he comes in overtime. First play, he throws a 10-yard fade touchdown pass to Emmett Mosley V. So the guy has, he's batting 1,000 right now. He's a guy who's capable of running as well, Brandon. He's had the touch with the passing, those 2 critical passes that he's thrown in SEC play, and he has a 50-yard run on the season as well.
I guarantee you most from the fan base, they saw that game Mississippi State, but they're now Googling, well, let me just see what Caldwell did. He had 1,600 at Troy and 12 touchdowns and 6 interceptions there. But you mentioned there, we saw some of the magic he had. I'm curious, if you're Sark, are you shortening that playbook there? What have you been hearing? Is it more like an in and out menu there?
Yeah, I mean, Steve Sarkisian, for the first 4 years he was at Texas, he said the more we can do, the harder we are to defend. This year, it's been, what do we do well offensively? I mean, we are headed into game 9 for the Texas Longhorns, and there's still no identity for this offense. It used to be committing penalties and Arch Manning running for his life, but we did see some life from this offense when they went into 2-minute against Mississippi State. They scored 17 points offensively. Arch Manning was throwing it all over the place. The running game has not been reliable at all. So I think what Arch Manning does well is what Matthew Caldwell does well. I'm sure Sark will narrow, his favorite throws, his favorite plays to accommodate Matthew Caldwell, but I don't think you have to change the offense much for Caldwell. Their skill sets are pretty similar.
Whether it's him or it is Arch Manning getting a chance to play Saturday, the opposite side of that team, the defense, they have to deal with Diego Pavia, whose star continues to rise in terms of the Heisman conversation. Right now, what we're seeing from Vandy, what is the game plan of containing him or at least trying to slow him down?
Yeah, Texas has done pretty well against mobile quarterbacks under Pete Kwiatkowski, the defensive coordinator at Texas, and they have the speed and the spies for Diego Pavia. I imagine you'll see Anthony Hill Jr., to me, Texas's most dominant defensive player at linebacker, who had 3.5 tackles for loss and 2.5 sacks last week against Mississippi State, as the spy on Pavia, and Colin Simmons, their electric defensive end, who has 5.5 sacks in the last 3 games, had a big third down pressure in overtime against Mississippi State last week. So I think Hill and Simmons will get most of the responsibility in containing Diego Pavia, but the pass defense without star All-American safety Michael Taff was leaky last week. They gave up, a ton of yards through the air, not on the ground, but through the air. And so, Diego Pavia is probably going to have to beat Texas with his arm. And after looking at the film of the Texas pass defense against Mississippi State, he's probably excited about that.
He has been a dual threat for Vandy and the Commodore this year, the reason why they're top 10 in the land. I want to get to Steve Sarkisian because going on here. What have you heard about that situation?
Yeah, it was interesting because the timing of the report was odd. The report said that Steve Sarkisian's representatives had been letting NFL decision makers know that Sarkisian would be interested in, a couple job openings, including the Tennessee Titans. So Steve Sarkisian came out emphatically saying, this is not true, or he basically shot it down after the win over Mississippi State. In fact, Jimmy Sexton and CAA, who typically don't ever put out a statement saying that this rumor was patently false. So it was curious, the timing, because Texas fans would maybe look at this and say, uh-oh, does Steve Sarkisian think that the program's not where it should be at this time? I mean, Texas has gone to back-to-back college football playoff semifinals. This year obviously has not been what the fan base and probably what Steve Sarkisian had hoped offensively. Big problems on the offensive line. Arch Manning has been up and down. But we'll have to see as the carousel turns, the coaching carousel turns, what that means. What Steve Sarkisian and his representatives say, he's focused solely on coaching Texas.
Well, when your players are playing good and you're in the conversation per usual, you will get the attention. I think last year, too, the Cowboys at one point, threw his name out there, but that's just rumors. We don't know. We'll see what happens. I need you to give me a pick for Saturday. How will this play out against Vandy?
I think Texas's defense can keep Diego Pavia in check. This is going to be a nail biter. I'm going to say that Texas pulls off the upset 19-17.
Keeping this close, 19-17. All right, Chip.
A lot of field goals in this one, Brandon.
A lot of field goals, and we'll see who is QB1 when it comes to Texas on Saturday. Chip Brown, as always, appreciate your help in terms of that top 20 matchup in Austin against them in Vandy there. But don't forget the college football. You can catch them on YouTube. Use that QR code to tap in. Week 10 on Saturday begins sooner than later.